Medical records, they're supposed to be the bedrock of fact. But what happens when that official record tells one story and a hidden digital trail tells a completely different one? Today, we're going to look at a case where these two worlds collide, and the conflict between sworn testimony and digital proof is, well, staggering.
So that's the big question we're asking. How much truth can a legal document really hold? To find out, we're going to follow two very different paper trails, one from the courthouse and one from the doctor's office. We'll see where they lead, and maybe more importantly, where they completely diverge.
Every court case really starts with a story, an official narrative built piece by piece through legal filings. So let's begin right there with the official story, exactly as it was first told to the court.
Okay, so this is the document that kicks the whole thing off, a petition for dissolution of marriage. It was filed in early 2019, and it's what lays out the basic claims of the entire case.
Now, this sentence right here is the absolute foundation of the legal case. It establishes a very clear timeline of alleged abandonment. It claims the mother has had no contact with her kids for over 2 years, and it even gives a specific final date of contact with the father, October 3rd, 2017.
Now, to get a case like this moving forward, you can't just make a statement. It has to be sworn to. It has to be put into an affidavit, where you attest to the facts under oath. Let's see how that official story got locked in.
And here it is, an affidavit regarding publication, filed just a few weeks after that initial petition. In this document, the petitioner's attorney is stating, under oath, specific facts that his client gave him.
So the affidavit doubles down on that date. It states, with no room for doubt, that the only contact since August of 2016 was a single phone call on October 3rd, 2017. This isn't just a casual claim anymore. It's a specific, sworn fact presented to the court.
And then the affidavit makes a second critical claim, that after a diligent inquiry, no mailing address for the mother is known. Now, this is a huge deal legally. It's the justification you need to serve divorce papers through a notice in a local newspaper instead of personally. That's a method you're only supposed to use when someone has truly, completely vanished.
So the official story presented to the court is crystal clear, a case of complete abandonment by a mother whose location is unknown. But like we said at the start, there was another paper trail, a digital one, and this one was never presented to the court. This is the turning point, right here. If the claims in that sworn affidavit were true, the digital record should be silent. It should be empty. But was it?
Here is where the conflict becomes absolutely undeniable. On the left, you have the sworn statement claiming zero contact after October 3rd, 2017. And on the right, a messenger conversation between the very same two people from November 7th, 2017, a full month after that supposed last contact ever happened.
Let's just map this out on a timeline, because the discrepancy is just staggering. The official record claims everything stops cold on October 3rd, 2017. But the digital record shows conversations just a month later, and they continue all through 2018. There's even a New Year's message on January 1st, 2019. And then just 27 days after that message was sent, the sworn affidavit claiming no contact was filed with the court.
You know, the court wasn't the only official system where a very specific story was being told. At the same time all these legal filings were happening, a parallel narrative was being constructed, this time in the children's medical records.
And this is a direct quote from the history given to medical staff by the father's family. I mean, these are incredibly severe allegations of abuse and neglect, and they're being painted as the foundational history of these children's early lives.
The verbal history also included other really specific, damaging claims. That the mother used drugs and alcohol while she was pregnant, that the children were victims of severe physical neglect, and that one child suffered developmental delays as a direct result. And just like that, these claims were entered into the permanent medical record as fact.
But just like with the legal filings, there was another set of records, the original clinical data, the hard facts from the children's birth and early years. Let's see how that data compares to the story being told to the doctors.
When you put it side by side like this, the conflict is it's stark. The claim of maternal drug use, that's directly contradicted by a negative drug test at birth. The story of severe neglect, contradicted by medical records describing the child as healthy at every single checkup. And that claim of developmental delays, completely contradicted by the child's own school.
And here it is. This is an email from the child's elementary school principal, dated February 7th, 2019, right in the middle of all of this.
He describes the child not as delayed, but as academically strong, highly verbal, and with academics higher than his peers. This is a third-party, professional assessment that tells a completely different story. Let's just look at the hard data from birth. ABGAR scores of 9 out of 10, twice. That's the sign of a perfectly healthy newborn. The CordStat analysis was negative for 12 different classes of drugs, and all the early well-child checks show a healthy boy meeting all his developmental milestones. The clinical data simply does not support the verbal narrative that was created.
So what do we have here? We've got two official systems, one legal, one medical, being fed one narrative, while documented, verifiable records from digital logs, clinical tests, and school reports tell a profoundly different one.
What this all shows is a clear pattern. First, a legal claim of abandonment is sworn to under oath, which serves to remove one parent from the legal process. At the same time, a medical narrative of severe abuse is constructed, which serves to alienate the children. And both of these powerful narratives are directly contradicted by the actual documented record.
And that brings us right back to our original question. This case shows just how easily official records can be shaped by the stories people choose to tell. It leaves us with a critical thought. When a story that's sworn to in court is disproven by a timestamp on a message, and a medical diagnosis is disproven by a lab test from birth, it really forces us to ask which paper trail truly holds the truth.